Welcome to Sustainable Stock. Real conversations about cattle, land, and the culture that surrounds them. From grazing and management to the weight of stewardship that cattlemen carry, we explore what truly sustains the herd. Brought to you by Boss Sires Genetics, functional, fertile, adapted genetics. Here's your host, Patrick Powers.
Today I'm joined with Oscar Jimenez from Costa Rica. Oscar, how are you doing today?
Well, all good. It's a pleasure to me to be invited here. So hopefully my English be enough for understand here, but I'm gonna make my best.
That sounds great. I'm sure it'll all work out just fine. Well, Oscar, I've asked you to come on because with you working as a rep with Boss Hires, I've had the opportunity to speak with you a couple times and never really in depth about the cattle and culture found in Costa Rica. And I kind of wanted to dive in that with you. I wanted to dive into that with you this episode.
Yeah, okay. Just tell me what exactly you want, or where to begin.
I think the best place to begin would be to introduce yourself to the listener. Would you
Okay.
mind telling us who you are?
Yeah. Perfect. Well, I born in a producer's family. My family is dairy farmers. So all my life I've been at the field, working with the animals, with the cows, milking. And few years ago, we started in my with my wife. We started a small production. So we worked with small animals, with sheeps, and then we work we diversified the productions. We are working also with pasture eggs and pasture chickens, and we are doing uh, all our production to small systems. And that's been very interesting, because when we start doing that system, when we start doing those process, is when we learn about the regenerative agriculture. So in that moment, we didn't even know that concept, and we learned with more time ahead. So that's which made my criteria, even my philosophy, I think. So we try to produce, to know what we are eating, what we are producing, and how we are doing.
Excellent. So it really shaped the way you move forward with agriculture. That's wonderful. Well, could you tell us a little bit about your company that you're working with?
Well, yeah. When we learned about this, we was thinking as how didn't we learn about this in school, in university? So we start promoting that system. We start promoting that philosophy, and teaching the producers how to do it, and how to move to these models, productive models. So maybe 10 years ago, we started working with different producers and different activities. We worked with dairy farmers, with beef, and some other activities. So we made so many, or we make so many things about it. We worked with holistic management. We worked with some other methodologies from Brazil, Argentina. We have made so many exchange of experience, and we work with producers here in Costa Rica, especially. But we try to know what the people think, what they want to do, and we adapt the methodologies to every singular producer and their context. So we sometimes we made some maps with the farms with drones. We measure the farms, and we established the system. We designed the complete system with them. We worked with the producers in the same table. We print the maps, and then we say to them, "What do you think, or what do you want to do in your property?" And we try to um, get that and digitalize it, and then we implement it into the farm. That's like the first part of the works. And then um, we goes and constantly visiting them, and see how are they working, and what other needs they have.
Excellent. So it's certainly not a one size fits all. It sounds
Yeah.
more like you familiarize yourself with their operation, their region, create a plan of attack, and then there's checks and balances throughout so you can make corrective action for the expected goals.
Yeah, so something important is that not all farms are same. I think that's very common to hear, but we take that to another level because we always say the point of the starting point and how much the farms advance and the speed that the farm advance to regenerative systems, it depends more of the people than the farm as well. So we try to know, to identify which is that context to start, and how do every people wants to move, or how, which practice that they need, and so we try to adapt those practice to every people.
Would you say growing up in dairy prepared you for this kind of agriculture?
Oh, well, there is a huge thing because in Costa Rica we have adopted very much the system from USA, Canada, and very intensive systems. So it's kind of hard to move those farms to an regenerative agricultural systems because um, practically all the farms are um, overcharged, have more animals than what it can keep. So uh, the farms are using a lot of grains that we don't produce in Costa Rica. Everything is imported, so it's kind of expensive. It's increased the cost productions. And when we try to move to a system more pasture, or take more use more the grass that we have, sometimes it's hard because the animals, the genetics is made it to a high intensive system, and the rotation is not um, can support that kind of rotations.
Yeah, I can imagine. So you say it stemmed from the import of our systems, of US systems,
Yeah.
this high production, high grain use, high yield, and trying to make it fit your environment. That's when the genetics seem to have broke.
Yeah, Costa Rica has imported genetics from USA and Canada for many years, well, and is still doing. And the system we know well. I made my internship. I was 4 months in USA working on a dairy farm, so I know very well how is the system, and we are copying that system here, but we have some other different conditions, and sometimes the people find out that those animals are not very well adapted to our conditions. We have in Costa Rica is a very small country, but with different conditions. We have a higher elevation, we have lower places, so we have hot places. Some others are um, well, I forgot that word. Sorry. So some with better weather to dairy production. So the genetics, it was been working by everywhere, and sometimes the people find out that it doesn't work, and they start introducing some other genetics, but doesn't change the objective. Always thinking on high production, high intensity, and it's still working as the same system. Bringing the cows into the barns, establishment, cutting grass, and bringing into the barns, feed the cows in there. So it increased the cost production for us, and we have a very well conditions to produce with soil, water, and sun. We have all we need to produce, and we have that all year. Yeah, all the year. So I think that we shouldn't be adopting those systems. We have to move to more pasture systems. But now we have the challenge to change everything: the genetics, the system as we how we feed the animals, and even the amount of animals that the farm can support.
Saying that and that we need to, it feels as if you need to change it all. Where do you feel would be the best place to start? Would it be trying to make the cattle you currently have from your imported use over these years? Would it be better to adapt them to it? Do you think you could have that done in a timely manner to return to profit? Or do you think it would be better to find adapted genetics and then work with the new system you'd like?
Well, the thing is that now we have a genetic of high production, so we can't eliminate all of those cows and bring some other new ones, because anyway that's not profitable. But anyway, we can found a genetic that we can adapt to a new system. I mean, all the genetics in the country, it's made to high production system. So we can say I'm going to that farm specifically and bring some animals that I'm gonna adapt to that system, because everything is developed by the high production system. So we have to start doing small steps. We have to change the way as we manage the grass, the fertilizing, the rotations, and at the same time we have to start working with the genetics.
So
So
small steps everywhere instead of one
yes,
large step in one region.
yes, exactly. That's I think that's what we have to make over here.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. You mentioned beef production as well. Has beef production fallen for that same trick where they fell for the high use model where it's more labor intensive, it's more input based, but you get these higher yields?
Okay, the dairy farm introduced that systems earlier than the beef production, but now I see the beef producers moving to that system, to that high intensity system, and higher cost. So uh, I get concerned sometimes because I'll see that. Even when I go with a very small producer, maybe 5, 10 animals, and to finish the last stage of the develop of the animals has to be into the barn. So I'm just making numbers in my head, so that's not profitable. That can be, but maybe the people don't even have the numbers, and doesn't know that it's not being
Yeah,
profitable.
you can't recognize the lack of profit if you're not tracking all metrics.
Yes, yes, and that's another big thing over here. Almost anybody have numbers. Almost anybody take the chance or take the time to check the numbers.
So it's
Uh,
very limited.
yeah, at least at the financial aspect. In the production, many people has it. More in dairy farm, the people knows when the cow gets pregnant, when have to come the calf and all of that. But the financial numbers, almost anybody it's taking it.
Well, Oscar, to lean a little bit further back into what you just stated, that many aren't tracking the numbers related to the labor, the inputs, and all this to understand the true profitability of their operation there in Costa Rica. I've got some numbers here that I just found on the magic of Google today, but it roughly shows that from the 1990s to today, the population of Costa Rica has increased by about 46%, but the beef herd has decreased. The cattle population has decreased by about 33%. Would you say that has a lot to do with the cost of keeping cattle, or would that be failure within the cattle systems?
Um, I don't really know. I don't really know. I think there are many other aspects. Um, but I think that what I seen at the field is many people reducing the cows, the number of the cows. Most people wants to raise the males, but less people is producing cows. I
Is
don't
there a
know. Yeah.
reason for that?
Yes, yes, and I think that's maybe with the cost. But there's something what I heard about grant that I think it's very that I think this is the reason over here. I hear the people saying that the to keep the cows is kind of hard because of the cost of, because it's complicated to make the pregnancies, because it's complicated to take care of the calf. So people is designated the place to some other activities. They prefer to take the animals from 8-10 months and finish, but are not producing those calves. And every time is less people producing calf.
Okay. Do you think that's associated with the cost of raising alone, or do you think it's because maybe there's a drop in the fertility and it's hard to replenish the herd if you're raising the females?
Yes, I think all of it. Yes. Well, yeah. I seen every time more common to use how can I say, the assisted fertility. I used to say on that way, the assisted fertility, because the cows are not getting pregnant, the cows are not getting even are not cycling. So many people is having um, the cows are getting pregnant before the 8 or 10 months after the calving. So well, the times the open time is it's pretty huge, and that's one of the big things over here. So many people is using the hormones in the cows to disminue that time, to reduce that time, but it includes cost. It is more operation, more people working, so more attention to the system, and many calf when born they have to take care of it because can't even feed by themselves. So
So you're seeing a lot of factors affect
yes,
that
yes,
place in the market.
yes, and,
Uh,
and most of it or all of it are related with the genetics.
So where would you say the majority of the genetics for the beef herd there in Costa Rica comes from? Is that also from imported or a lot of that native as well?
Um, well, most of the genetics comes from some other places. Um, I think that the most traditional genetics comes from USA, and recently are importing genetics from Brazil, Colombia. Um, yeah, I think those are the principal source of the genetics.
Well, I mean, to speak a little further on what you just said, I imagine that it is unattractive to try and be in a cow calf operation because if you don't have a calf on the ground, but at, year and a half, 2 year intervals, all your profit is derived there. And that's a long term investment versus people that are just feeding out.
Yes, well, as in beef productions, as thinking about all the cycle, the people is not taking the information of the animals. Not much people does it. So sometimes the farmers or the producers don't even know how long it's been since last since in the cows we have the calf. So sometimes one farmer was saying to me that the cow was very well because it was always bringing the calf every January. But it results that checking some few notes that he has over there, it was January 2023 and then 2025. So he was thinking that the cow was every January, but it was 2 years between.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's wild. Well, I like that you spoke to the labor involved in many of these operations that y'all have also imported. So you didn't just import cattle, y'all have imported the American dairy system, and
Yes.
it's very hands-on. And you're talking about the beef side of it too. It sounds like many people imported the genetics and then also were saddled with the labor intensiveness of some of these genetics, and they're finding it unprofitable.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I can start for my own experience or my family experience. We had 75, 100 cows in production. And well, yeah, it was a total of 100 cows in production, but there was 26 cows into the barns. We was stabulating. It was semi-stabulating. It was 10, 11 hours into the barns. So we have some grass. We have to bring those grasses to chop to move to the animals. And all the operation, it was very uh, kind of difficult, I would say. And the machines, the choppers, the tractor, the maintenance of those all those equipments. and the people, because here we don't have the same conditions than you over there. So it was more manual, some of the activities of the labors. So yes, it was kind of the operation, kind of complicated operation, I will say. So the whole system has changed. Now we have all the cows the whole day in pastures. So we don't need those machines. We have we sell some of the choppers. We sell the tractor, and now we have just a small one for a few jobs that we needed. And the areas where we was planting the grass to bring to the animals, we are using right now to some other animals, the pregnancy cows, and we are receiving the calving that sector of the farms. Um, and so whole system changed. Even my father's he suffer of stress, and that's what he moved to take the decision to change the system, and now he's somebody different, completely different right now. In that moment, we couldn't receive any people. He didn't want it to receive even the sailors of any product or anything. And right now we have the visit of the producers, people from other countries, professionals, and he's very excited of be receiving people. The we get to the farm at the 6 7 a.m. and you don't see anybody over there. The employees already finished all the labors of the farm, are resting, they finish the milking, and are waiting to maybe go check the animals, and all the labors of the farm change, and now it's a very easy system to handle, even to operate it and management.
That's good. I'm glad your father was able to find some joy in it.
Yeah.
Well, to move our conversation a little bit, and get more into the culture behind the cattle, what other aspects of that could we speak to? Is there pageantry behind the cattle there? Are they held in high regard? Are there shows?
How is that?
Are there cattle shows there? Is that Does that shape some of the conversation behind cattle?
Yes. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, that's that's kind of interesting. We have cows, well, shows over here. Even my dad sometimes try to take some animals over there, and he was very excited with those animals. They said that they are very well, very productive. And then when he gets there, the animals didn't win. What it wasn't what he expected, but it was animals um, more efficient, not so uh, not so beauties as made to the fair. That's like something that I was saying over there. And yes, here is the genetics what the many people buy. It's from the fair, from those activities. So yes, here are a few ones that are very famous in the country, like someone's focus on dairy, some are focused on beef.
So, is there big prize money involved for these cattle? Are you held in high regard if you've raised one of these cattle? Is
Well,
there
I think it's the same. I would say the same model than you. If a bull or a cow wins in that fair, the 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 sons or the yeah, well, the sons are gonna have a big prizes. So I don't know if be the same prices than you over there, but I'll see in animals between six seven, yeah, $6 7 thousand for one bull. So yeah, it's kind of expensive, and those animals, I always say, those animals we can take to the pasture because doesn't are not adapted to it, or some people said that they have to give in some time to be adapted before it start working.
so just for someone from outside of Costa Rica, How does that $6,000 to $7,000 compare to the average cost of a bull?
It's very high. Yes, it's very high. Not all animals get to it. Some the normal, well, the normal, even in the fair, normally we found the price in highly genetics animals between maybe $3,000, $4,000. I think it's like the most common. Some ones get to $6,000 or $7,000. But even like this is kind of expensive for everybody.
Yeah. Well, in your work with your regenerative ag, do you find many people wanting to adapt those show type genetics into these systems? Do you have advice for those? Does it work in that system?
Sorry.
With your work and your agroregenia,
Yeah.
do those type of genetics often find their way into that system?
No, no, it doesn't work. Those animals doesn't work in pasture systems. Uh, eh, I always say that you get surprises when you less expected, because sometimes we found very nice bulls in some farm when the people haven't worked with uh, improving the genetics, and when most improvement they made with the genetics, we found bulls with some other characteristics that can be adapted to pasture systems. So we have to check it out very well. And when I advise some farmers, I said you have to evaluate it very well, every bulls, every animal that you're gonna bring to the farm, because animals are not gonna be adapted, are not gonna be well, or are gonna need some feeds, grains, or something else to keep producing as every people need it.
Well, along those same lines, whenever I pulled the metrics on the population and the cattle inventory in the last 30 years, or yeah, 30 years, it would looked at like the corn and soybean imports have increased almost 300% for Costa Rica. So, does that speak to the way the industry is going or what people are willing to do to help these cattle work?
Yeah, well, those numbers, I think that there's something to said, because there are those numbers are not specified for which activity it goes.
Oh yeah, it could be
Because
into any
we
lane of
have chicken,
agriculture.
we have porks, and specific in in dairy or beef. The dairy farms are using huge amounts of grains. So the first time that I evaluated in our farm, I got surprised. I was expecting that. It was almost 60% of the diet of the cows. It was grains.
That's
So
hard to make money that way.
yeah, yeah, that's a huge thing. It was maybe 58% of the feed. Um, so we start working with the genetics and we try to get it lower, but we found that it wasn't able to move pretty much, because the animals it wasn't able to produce with like that. We start losing body condition. We start reducing the fertility. So we had to bring once again, or increase a little bit the amount of grains, and start working. It works very hard with the genetics, and in last maybe 5 years we've been reducing very small every year, very low every year, the amount of the grains, and right now it's like a goal for us that we are in about 35-38% of the diet is grains. um, but it's I think it's more it's bigger in dairy producers. I think in beef the people are doing everything what they can, are using grains, are using feeds, but are using some other things that I don't even want to mention because I don't like it. Are residual from other animals, are residual from other harvests, so are trying to use anything that be cheaper, but but the animal has to be in some barn, has to be feeded in there at least a few couple of times a day.
Do you feel that anyone in Costa Rica is starting to wake up and ask, why are we doing it this way? Are more producers asking, why don't we raise cattle that can do it on grass alone?
Well, we are trying to make it. We're trying to, but it's very hard. We have had many years receiving information that bringing our head of that you need to do this, that you need that genetic, you need to use feed, you have to use the hormones. So that change is it's very hard. Uh, yeah, every year we see new people trying to make the change and trying to give some steps, but I think to get that change is very hard. And another challenge or hard thing is the industry of the meat, because they are requesting some kind of animal that I always think that are completely outside of their nature, are huge animals, more than uh, more than 1,000, maybe 1,200 pounds. Are huge animals that I think are out of the nature of the cattle.
So this push for larger frame cattle could be leading to some of these failures.
Repeat again, please. Sorry, I was checking the data of the pounds. It was 1,300 pounds, the size of the animal that the industry is looking over here. Sometimes we offer smaller animals and they don't like it, don't want it. So the same industry, it's moving the producers to search the genetics and to use those kind of feeds in that system.
Yeah, unfortunately, it kind of rewards itself. You'll use this to grow these bigger ones,
Yes.
and if you don't buy this product to raise the bigger cattle, you're going to be punished.
Yeah, so it's a very hard situation, but there's also the other face of the coin, as we said. Um, some people, maybe two or three people that I know, are like are the leaders of that move of the grass-fed meat. So they are conscious of this, and they are not looking those huge animals. They know that the animals can be development to that size in pasture, so are working with smaller animals. And I think that is something that it's just starting, but in some time we are going to have more butchers. I think it's the word, more butchers working with those kind of products, and are bringing lower size of the animals. I think that's like the opportunity that we have.
Along those same lines, is that not, is it less marketable? Is this for in-country use, or is a lot of this beef being exported?
Um, the the meat in general, or the grains? No, sorry, the grass-fed production.
I would say both. I mean, if grass-fed is just leading the charge for smaller frame,
Yes.
is is there a large export of beef that happens for Costa Rica?
Yes, Costa Rica is exporting. I don't remember the amount. Is not very huge. Yeah, Costa Rica is a high consumer of meats. But yes, Costa Rica import and export the meat. But we are trying to work with specialized markets.
Well, Oscar, I recently had an interview with Roderick Murray from uh, Panama,
Okay.
and his country has found their native cattle.
Yes.
Seems like they've just, as of late, rediscovered them and how efficient they work and how well adapted they are to their very country. Would you say that y'all have cattle that are the same? Do y'all value them in the same way?
We had one.
You had one.
Yeah, but we lost it.
Oh no.
Yes, in the 90s there was a program from CATI. I don't know if maybe somebody knows about it. CATI is a education institute of well, I forgot. It's master degrees yeah, so they was some people. It was Jorge del Alba, I think. It was working over there, and he found a couple of animals into the herd and started investigating why it was animals was different, and it was traveling about the all the country trying to find out the genetics, and found few animals in the north of Costa Rica, in Guanacaste specifically, but there was very little animals, and it was cross. It didn't found a pure animals, and then some people in that research told him that that he knows where those animals came from, and then traveled to Nicaragua because those animals was coming from Nicaragua. But it was like a genetics share between Costa Rica and Nicaragua. I would like to think like this, because the origin of that genetics it's Nicaragua. So we had those animals, and there was a few ones spread in all the country. And when the genetic programs in Katia finished, he was from Mexico, so he told he take those animals and bring to Mexico. And now in Mexico are called like Criollo Lechero Tropical, CLT, CLT. So there's like the two two subspecies. No, not two. Well, I forgot that word. Sorry. the there are two the same animals. So one focus in Nicaragua and one focus in Mexico, and now we are trying to reincorporate those animals in Costa Rica, and are very adapted. Are more selected for daily production. So it's kind of interesting because most of the native animals are more specialized to the beef production. So now we have available the genetic for dairy production over here. So we are trying to bring it up. The first animals, well, we have one in production, and it's very interesting. Are not higher production as jerseys or some other breeds, but always keep the body conditions, the fertility is pretty much. You recognize this in the field because you see all the cows, more hair, and that one is it
Slick
has the
coat.
sleek hair and more brilliant the skin, so you definitely identify it very easy. So yes, are definitely more adapted, and we introduce also some Mashona breeds to. Now I'm remember it's not from us, but we introduced some Mashona breeds and didn't like to my dad because he's saying that it was a problem. You couldn't feed it because it was very fat. It was a problem for him. Yeah, so he finally take it off the farm because well the system we have even when we have reduced the feed, but it's still doing so. The cows was very fat. The production wasn't so high as he expected. But yes, it's same kind of animals, or well, very similar with Criollo Lechero, or some others that we know, as the cattle in Panama. We have here about the animals in Guatemala, well, Nicaragua with the Reina. So I think it's the kind of animals that we need in our countries to produce with pastures to grain finish, sorry, grass finish, um, and even has to maybe fight less with the parasites also.
So, why do you think it took so long to finally recognize the value those cattle added?
Well, I think doesn't be it haven't been recognized yet. We are a few crazy ones trying to do it, but haven't been recognized yet. It's very hard. Most of the people is thinking on high production, um, because well, as I was saying, even the industry is looking for those kind of animals. So some people it's starting crossing those animals and seeing something different and trying to get that. intermediate points between the high production and the grass, the more adapted animals. But I think it's still been unknowledged yet. It's something that is just starting.
It's not an uncommon story. I think a lot of our expectations in cattle production comes down to our basis of education. I think the education leans a lot more towards high production, high input, and there's not a lot supporting us in the regen in your case and grass base in our case.
Yes. Well, I think that yeah, the education is very important, but I think that we have something more difficult, maybe, that is forcing the people to know about this and make those change, which is the climate change. It's affecting very much over here, and we till the point that we don't have like specific conditions. Maybe we can be in summer and have a very hard rain, or maybe we can be in winter and doesn't have rain for a few days, which is not common for us, or we are having the both extremes. Sometimes it rains too much. We have inundations. We have problems with the grass. We have problems with the animals. And some other season we don't have rain at all, and people is not prepared of it. So I think that is some of the conditions that are moving the people to see something else, to find some way to prepare to work those conditions, and one of them is looking for another genetics that doesn't have to or more don't suffer so much of those conditions, and also the parasites that I mentioned a few minutes ago. The parasites for us is another huge thing. People use the antiparasites as a protocol every month, every 3 months, and now we are always when I said as the regenerative um, aspect that we said try to eliminate the ivermectin and few antiparasites of the same family. It's like, oh my god, what I'm gonna do now? So so we say, oh wait, pasture works and the genetics works also. You have to start um, checking your animals and trying to identify the more adapted animals. And so sometimes with the I'm gonna mention a breed. Sometimes, well, even now the people are still thinking that the Brahman is the most adapted that can work here, but now we are having some reports of the even the Brahman having problems with the parasites, having problem with the temperature. So that's which said to us that we have to even work harder in in the selection of the animals.
Yeah. Well, there's always variation within a breed. It's very it's a slippery slope to say, "Oh, this breed can handle this generally."
Yes.
You still have to be selective within that. Find your outliers, find the ones that handle this well, handle the heat well, handle that. I mean, look at dogs. You can have two of the same breed of dog, and one was bred for sitting on the couch, and the other one was for out running the fields,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, definitely. I always say it's not the breed, it's the animals as well. So we have to that selection of the animals is what we have to work.
Well, Oscar, I think we've done a good job of highlighting your work there in Costa Rica and recognizing some of the pitfalls of the education surrounding these different types of cattle and cattle production. But I am curious, what led you to work with boss sires?
Well, we all that we have talked in this time. No, when we start working with the regenerative agriculture, we found like an empty spot with the genetics. We always work with grass, improve the pasture, improve the management, but the animals wasn't wasn't having the response that we wanted. Sometimes we one of the aspects that we works is a higher or a deeper harvest of the grass, And sometimes we was doing, and the farmer called me and tell me, look, the animals are losing body condition. What we do? So we can't do that harvest as we want it, as we need it, because the animals are not adapted to it. So we have to start working. Whereas we were having long time thinking on genetics, on how to bring some animals more adapted, so animals more efficient to the grass, that we can work as we wanted to that harvest production, or higher harvest. So because it's very important to the regeneration of the soil. It's very important to the function of the same soil, or the ecosystem as well. So we want to get to it, but genetics won't let us to do it.
Yeah.
So
I
when
think,
Grant, yeah, when Grant called me and tell me, hey, we are working the genetics, we can help you we offer you those animals. I was saying like, Great, that's what we need over here."
yeah, I think it's great. It sounds like you're building a lot of really good systems, and you just had to find that missing element of the genetics that could use it.
Yeah, well, we are trying to. It's everything is related: the soil, the
Yeah,
grass, and the animal, and so we can't works by separate aspect. We have to works as a system.
yeah. Well, if tomorrow you woke up and everybody heard your message, what would that look like for you?
Um, yeah, I will say that the regeneration is not a crazy thing. It's something that we all have to. Sometime we're gonna find out that we have to move it, and the ecosystem and the planet as well is screaming to us that we have to make that change, and we need to work with the nature, not against to it. I hear so many times that or we produce or we take care of the nature, and now we know that we can do both things at the same time, and we have to for have a good productions to long term. So it's a need that we have to make. So the change has to come sometime.
And there's a human element there too. We do
Yes,
all these things to fix
yeah,
that, and it'll help us.
definitely, definitely. As I mentioned before, um, we have to take the decisions we have in our hands, the options, the opportunities, and we have to move to it. Um, the speed that we made the change depends of every one of us. Sometimes the people asking me how fast is the regeneration, and always says it doesn't depends of the ecosystem, it doesn't depends of the animals, it depends of the people who is taking care of the system, and that people is who condition the speed of the regeneration.
I think that's well said. Well, Oscar, I usually like to ask all my new guests what they feel their moral obligation is to the land, the cattle, and future generations, but I think you just answered all that.
Okay, yeah, well, no words.
Uh, I tell you what, I sure appreciate you coming on today. I am looking forward for the listeners out there. If y'all have enjoyed this conversation, Boss Cyrus, along with Oscar here, will be putting on our very first sustainable genetics conference there in Costa Rica on September 12th. Outside of, help me say it before I say it wrong, Oscar. Is it Liberia?
Liberia, correct.
Okay.
Well, it's just the accent. Don't worry about it. It's Liberia.
So looking forward to being there and meeting you in person and meeting some good producers and talking about cattle.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty excited for that that moment. I'm waiting to it. I think it's uh, a huge opportunity for all our producers in here to know some other way to produce and have some opportunity to change the system and be less depending of the insumes and suffer less of the climate change.
Yeah. I think a lot of the things from our conversation come back to It's all about local adaptation, but there's an element that doesn't change. You have to maintain fertility within your operation. You have to maintain adaptability, and profitability still matters no matter where you are in the world or what your ranching style looks like.
Yeah, definitely. The numbers talk, and it's a deficiency that we have, but we know that we have to take the numbers, and uh, definitely that is the that we have to be. Well, we have to be profitable. Many people has the idea that farming is not profitable, and sometimes, um, well, it's something that
I
the
think
people
our current way of farming isn't.
yeah, well, sometimes the farmer says to their son that it's not provided that study for do something else. It's very common over here, so we have to turn it profitable and keep the new generations producing it, keep it in the farm.
I'm glad to hear we're not the only one with that problem, but it sounds like we have a very similar solution.
Yeah, I think it's something. Doesn't matter the country where you go, you're gonna find out the same situation.
Yeah. I think we need to return joy and profit to the work.
Yes, definitely.
All right, Oscar. Well, once again, thank you for coming on today. I hope you enjoyed our conversation, and I hope to have you back again.
Yeah, well, I hope you enjoy it as I did it. Hopefully, my English be enough for understand everybody, and
No, it
I'm
was
I'm I'm
perfect.
pretty I'm pretty happy to be here and share my experience.
Excellent. Well, if anybody listening out there would like to get in touch with Oscar, I'll have his links and contact information in the description for the episode. And Oscar, if you'll help me sign off, I always like to end the show by saying, don't forget to ranch with purpose.
Breathe for the future.
That's perfect.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks for listening to Sustainable Stock. If this episode gave you a deeper appreciation for the people, the land, and the cattle behind your beef, like, subscribe, and share it. For full video episodes, follow us on YouTube. This show is brought to you by Boss Sires Genetics, your source for functional, fertile, adapted genetics. Until next time, stay rooted in common sense and connected to the herd.